What was the best paint scheme of 2022? Let's find out. Hey everyone, it's Taylor and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. And today we are doing just that by making a tier list of our favorite paint schemes from 2022. I do have some rules with this one, and this will be a two-part video. Part 1 is what you're seeing now. Part 2 will be up next week, but here is how this will work. I went through and looked at every single paint scheme from 2022 from all 36 chartered cars. From there, I picked what I believe to be my favorite paint scheme, so that's controversial already right there. I will also not be picking throwback schemes, and here is why. I feel like the throwback schemes are not necessarily original or specific to these drivers. That's just my belief. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I didn't feel like it was fair to pick the throwback schemes as my favorites for 2022 because I'm going to be real, I probably would have picked the majority of them as my favorite scheme for these drivers. So I wanted to change things up a little bit. So there are no throwback schemes in this, and it is a single paint scheme per driver. First up, we have Ross Chastain's paint scheme from Texas this year. I like this one in particular. There were so many Ross Chastain paint schemes that I could choose from, but this one stuck out to me. I really like the light camo. You're gonna see that throughout this entire video, is that a lot of the cars I picked had this light camo look, but I love the contrast with the red. And also the chrome number, that's another theme that we're probably gonna see going through all these paint schemes. Now, on my tier list, S tier is at the top. That is God tier. It means nothing can beat this paint scheme. F, though these are the best of the best paint schemes, means that this just didn't really quite make it on the best of the best list. That being said, I will be changing these rankings at the end of part 2. Basically, I know I'm thinking like paint scheme by paint scheme, but when I see the big picture, I might need to move some things around at the end to make sure I'm giving these paint schemes the best rankings possible. So stick around for the end of part 2 that is coming to you next week. But as for this Ross Chastain scheme, because it's the first scheme of the day, I gotta start it off at a B. I feel like C is a little too low for this one because I really like it. It's very sleek. So I'm gonna be starting this one off at a B. Next up is number 2, Austin Cindric. I decided to go with the Freightliner eCascadia paint scheme that he ran for the Clash. This gave me like a Tron vibe. That's why I liked it so much. Again, there was other paint schemes I could have gone for Austin Cindric. However, this one, I just barely edged out the rest. It is really cool. Do I like it better than the first paint scheme that we did with Ross Chastain? I don't think so. Again, I like the Tron vibes, but for me, it's very busy. I might give it a C. I know this is kind of controversial, but I'm gonna give it a C. And then number 3, Austin Dillon. You're probably asking yourself, Taylor, why is the Bass Pro Shop scheme on your screen? This is his base paint scheme. How is this your favorite? It just is. Again, we have the light camo that I really like, the Bass Pro Shop celebrating 50 years. Very important. I know this is similar to what we see with Martin Truex Jr. on a weekly basis. I get that, but I like this paint scheme better with the 3 than I do with the 19. I know it's more synonymous with the 19, but I just think it looks slightly better on this car. With that said, I do like this better than Austin Cindric's car. I do not think I like it better than Ross Chastain's, but it's gonna be in the B category. I'm gonna give it a low B. Next up in the number 4, Kevin Harvick. This one was tough. I was like, do I choose the gear wrench paint scheme, which I think is totally hot? Do I choose a Busch paint scheme? I chose the Mobil 1 paint scheme. This one has a special place in my heart just because it looks badass. I love this one. I know I saw the Busch Apple paint scheme win in Michigan this year, like in person. It was like one of the best moments of my life. This one, for me, the Richmond win just barely inches out that paint scheme. However, how does this rank amongst the others? For me, I'm looking at the rest of my list, and I want to give this paint scheme an A. So gosh darn bad. I don't know though if it deserves it. I don't want to say that it doesn't deserve it because it's fantastic looking, but I'm looking at it compared to Ross Chastain's paint scheme, which I think is my favorite so far out of this list, and I'm like, I gave Ross Chastain a B. I think I like this better than Ross Chastain's. Again, at the end of part 2, I'm going to change things around just a little bit to make sure I have my final rankings that I like completed. I am going to put this one at an A tier right now, knowing that it might move down or it might move around depending, but Kevin Harvick's Richmond win, I'm giving an A. Next up, my favorite scheme for Kyle Larson in the number 5 has to be the Valvoline scheme. I know he ran it like 5 times or less this season. Maybe it was 6 times. I just was not a huge fan of the rest of his paint schemes. Granted, the rest of them were most likely just the HendrickCars.com scheme. This one though, I like how clean it looks. I'm always a fan of clean lines. I also am a sucker for just red, white, and blue on a car mixed together, kind of patriotic looking. This one though, I think like I said, it's very clean, it's very nice, but it doesn't necessarily wow me like the rest that we've seen so far. So I gotta give this scheme a D right now, understanding that it could move around, but it's not exciting. The next scheme is for the number 6 of Brad Keselowski. I will say besides Kevin Harvick, I think RFK had some of the best schemes on the grid this season. For Brad Keselowski, I had to go with this King's Hawaiian Roll scheme. It looks so good. I was really on the fence between this one and the Cooler Generator scheme. There's also the Solomon Plumbing scheme that I love with the green and the white, because we don't see that a lot on cars anymore, at least from my view. I know we have like the leaf filter car and everything like that with Justin Haley now on the grid, but I just thought it looked really clean. However, I could not look past this. I love the orange. I love the blue. It kind of is like an Auto Trader type of vibe for me that kind of is synonymous or fits a little bit more with Brad Keselowski from what we've seen him run at Penske before, just a little bit though. But this one, I love. I also love King's Hawaiian, so I'm a little bit of a sucker for this one. I gotta give this one an A, a solid A. Next up is the number 7 for Corey LaJoie. I had a debate with this in my brain. Of course, I decided not to do the throwback schemes, and then I was like, well, if I'm not doing the throwback schemes because they're specific to certain events, do I not do Memorial Day, Veterans Day, or the 4th of July? I decided to do those paint schemes regardless. I just felt like it made more sense because they are still paint schemes that can be specific to these drivers in the field right now. I don't throw back to an old concept. So this is the paint scheme I decided to go with for Corey LaJoie. I decided to go with the number 7 Built Bar Patriotic paint scheme that he ran at Road America. Great thing about Corey LaJoie's schemes is they were kind of different for every single race that he had, so I had a lot of schemes to choose from. But again, that red, white, and blue, I love. I also love the eagle on the hood. I think it looks badass. Did I just hype up this paint scheme? Yes. However, I feel like it is very, very busy, and you know me, I like cars that are a lot more clean than they are busy and just in your face. This is one of those paint schemes that is busy and in your face, but it is so cool. Again, I might move this around later, but I really like this Corey LaJoie scheme, so I'm going to give it a C. Again, this is a list of the best, but it's just a little too busy for me to rank it any higher. Next up for Tyler Reddick in the number 8, I decided to go with his 3-chai paint scheme. I know it's a little bit of a boring pick, but I love how everything works together with this. The colors of the company work with the chrome. It all works well together. I don't like paint schemes that have like, you're not able to change the color of the number, and you don't work it with the paint scheme colors. You don't work it with the company colors, the logo. It just looks gross to me when you have like cars like that. This is not one of those cars. I love it. I'm going to give it a solid A. Next up in the number 9, we have Chase Elliott. I'm choosing his primary Hooters paint scheme for 2022. Here's the thing with this scheme. I do really like it. I really do. Like I said earlier, though, I feel like Hendrick had a weaker selection of schemes this year as opposed to previous years. And I will say, too, I love and respect the designers here. Again, these are the best of the best paint schemes that I chose for this video, so they're all fantastic. However, I will say this one, ranking it against the others, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I really do like it. I love the addition of the blue with the orange. For me, though, it's unique and I really like it. It's not my favorite out of the bunch. I'm probably going to give this one, I don't want to give this one a D. I feel like that's really harsh and really rude, but I gotta do this. All love in the world to Lefty and Noah Sweet. This car is freaking fantastic. Just in terms of ranking it S tier and everything else, I gotta give this one a D. I am so sorry. Again, this is my personal taste. This is my personal preference. If you disagree with me, put it in the comments below, but we are all entitled to our own opinion. We are all entitled to our own preferences, likes and dislikes, and that is just what that's what I've got. That's what I've got right now. Next up, Eric Almirola in the number 10. You're probably thinking, well, Taylor, you really liked Kevin Harvick's Mobil 1 scheme. Eric Almirola had a similar one at Vegas, I believe, in 2022. That should be your favorite for him, too. You would be wrong. I decided to go a different direction. I chose the Haas Automation scheme for Eric Almirola for 2022, being my favorite paint scheme for his car. However, I think this has to be my first F. It's really busy. I don't think it's really cohesive in a way. I love how it looks shiny and chromy and everything like that. It's just really jumbled in my opinion. And sometimes with the Stewart-Haas cars in particular, I would say some of the schemes can get a little jumbled. I could say the same thing for a car like Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s. Not to say that their cars look bad at all. They look sharp on the track, and I will say, even though the number moved forward and we were all kind of upset about that, the designers did a fantastic job making the best out of these schemes, and I think they made the best of the best. This one, however, has to be my first F, so I am very sorry to the number 10 team, but your paint scheme is not going to be ranking higher than that. Next up, Denny Hamlin in the number 11. I really liked his primary paint scheme. I think he was my favorite primary scheme in the field with his FedEx car. However, I gotta say, I would be a fool for not choosing the Coca-Cola scheme that he ran at Atlanta this year to be my favorite Denny Hamlin scheme of 2022. That being said, though, this might be my favorite Denny Hamlin scheme, but I don't think I can rank it higher than a D, and here is the stupid reason why. I feel like this scheme could go to the next level if the number on the side of the car would be white instead of gray or chrome. I know that's a really stupid reason for me to rank it at a D, but again, for Coca-Cola, I do feel like the scheme is too busy and also too plain at the same time. I also recognize that in my brain, I'm also thinking of the throwback paint schemes that we saw with Coca-Cola and how good those were compared to this one in a way. Again, I still really like this scheme, but because of the side color of the number and because I have those other schemes in my head, I gotta rank this one a D. Next up is Ryan Blaney in the number 12, and as much of a fan as I am of body armor, I have to go with this advanced auto parts scheme for the number 12 this year. I just like it. I love how the yellow, the red, and the black mixed together really well. I love how matte the black is. I also think that looks really good on the car. This scheme was just one of my favorites to look at the track, and it just makes sense. I feel like the side of the car also has some of the best use out of any other car in the field that we've seen on any given weekend. I just feel like it uses the space properly. Nothing is totally compact. Nothing is totally filled to the brim. And for that reason, I feel like I have to give this scheme a very high A. Does it rank over Brad Keselowski's scheme in my opinion? No, but I still really like it. It's getting an A. Next up, Chase Briscoe in the number 14 Roush Truck Center's car. It reminds me a little bit of Clint Boyer when he was in the number 14, the scheme that he ran week in, week out. So I think maybe that's why I like it a lot. And I also understand it has the same colors and same kind of inner workings as Ryan Blaney's car that we just rated an A. I understand that. However, this car in particular, I do not feel like uses the space on the side of the car as well as Ryan Blaney's scheme did. I'm also just not a huge fan overall of this. I like the hood of the car. I feel like it looks great. The logo looks fantastic there. But again, the side of the car is what does it for me. I'm making this a really low rating. I don't necessarily want to give it an F. I feel like it belongs at a D. And here is why. Like I said, the side of the car, the Roush logo on the side and the Mahindra logo on the side does not fill up the space well. I feel like if you made the logos bigger, if you place them somewhere else, obviously I know sponsorship with these cars, you place the logos where they got to be placed, but it just doesn't look right to me. For that reason, I got to give this paint scheme a D. Next up, the first chartered car for RWR. I'm going with this number 15 Scott Credit Union paint scheme that Parker Kligerman drove at the Worldwide Technology Raceway race. I decided to go with this one in particular because I thought the space used on the car was perfect. The logo on the hood, fantastic. The logo on the side of the car filled out the entire side of the car, which I appreciate. Now, there were a lot of really good, clean schemes from the number 15 for various reasons, depending on partnership or lack of partnership, but this car is fantastic with the space it used, so props to whoever designed this because it works really well. I'm also a sucker for the black, a little pop of red, and the white on the car. It's another color combination that I love on these cars. That being said though, I know this car isn't as busy as the others, and I know it's probably going to give it brownie points. For me, and this is going to be crazy to you all, especially looking at what we have in the D and F category, I'm going to give this one a C. I really like the simplicity of it. I'm sorry, I really do. So the number 15 gets a C for me. We go from plain to very bold with the number 16 chartered car for Colleague Racing. This is one that AJ Allmendinger raced in, the Andes Custard paint scheme that was raced at the All-Star race at Texas Motor Speedway. And I know it looks a little busy, but the fade with like the dots going into the yellow and then the yellow going into the pink works incredibly well. And it also has this, like, I'm gonna get probably the decade wrong, but it gives me like a 70s vibe or maybe like an 80s, 90s vibe, somewhere in there. Like that 30-year time period gives me those vibes and I really like it. However, like I did mention, this scheme is very busy, but I do like it better than all the cars in the D category. I feel like I'm gonna place this at a C. Next up, we have Chris Buescher in the Fifth Thirds paint scheme. I went with the one particularly from Coda, and here is why. The chrome number does it for me on this scheme. I also don't understand why it looks better in this picture. I think it's just because of how the camera and all the settings were, but it looks fantastic in this picture. Now, if you remember at Martinsville in October, I believe, there was not a chrome number on the side of the Fifth Thirds car, and I thought that was a huge miss. I really did not like that when we had the non-chrome number on the side of a Fifth Thirds scheme, but I like it here. Again, I really like the fade that we see between the white and the green with the checkered pattern, kind of the same thing that we saw with the Andy's custard paint scheme with that dot transition between the yellow and the pink. I like that here as well. I'm also a little biased because I want a jersey with Chris Buescher's name signed on it. That was the Fifth Third scheme. Anywho, I like this scheme a lot. However, we gotta talk about where it ranks. I feel like this scheme, in my opinion, deserves a B. I feel weird saying that, and it still doesn't feel right, but I'm looking at the numbers and the cars that we have below the C category, and I feel like this ranks above it. When I look at B and above, I feel like this ranks below it. So I'm gonna give this one a low B. Again, I thought this was a really solid paint scheme. I like it a lot. It's gonna get a B. I feel like it's a solid B. Next up, we get to our chunk of Joe Gibbs Racing cars, and here is where the struggle started for me. Obviously, the 18, 19, and 20 transitioned between the same schemes pretty much all season long. We had the interstate batteries, the DeWalt scheme. Just in particular, those were the ones that I'm like, okay, we had this one on the 19, we also had this one on the 20, we also had this one on the 18, and it was hard for me to decide, did I like this better on the 18 than I did the 19 or not? So that's why a lot of this was really tough, and I was going to make a rule for myself saying, hey, if they ran the same scheme, like the exact same scheme, you cannot choose it. But I decided to go against that because, guys, this number 18 interstate battery scheme is hot. It's one of my favorite schemes that I've ever seen. I really loved it, even like when Bobby Labonte wrote it and everything like that. It looks great on the 18 car because it just sticks in my head. It is synonymous with that number. It looked great on the number 19 too. I will give it that. But this car is freaking fantastic. I gotta say, this has to be my first S tier ranking of the day. I really love this scheme again. For me, it's the orange number on the hood that it really does it for me. So the number 18 Kyle Busch interstate battery scheme, S tier. You're also wondering, well, Taylor, why did you go with an M&M scheme? This is their last year. This beat it out by far. It just looks so cool. Green on a car. When it works, it works. Interstate batteries, gotta be S tier. The final scheme that we're going to talk about in part 1 is this number 19 Martin Truex Jr. Auto Owners Insurance scheme. This has the same vibe that we saw in the 16 and the 17 with that transition with either the checkers or the polka dots. So I like that already. However, the auto owner schemes have never truly been my favorite for Martin Truex Jr., though this is my favorite scheme for him this season. I think they use the space on the side of the car very, very well. However, when you get to the hood of the car, I like the big A on the hood, but then above the A, you have the auto owner's insurance just plain spelled out. I feel like that should have been left off the hood. I also understand though, if you left it off the hood, you would have had a big space with how the A is slanted. It's just the concept didn't really come together for me. But again, this was my favorite Martin Truex scheme of the year. However, because of how this bothers me, and I'm very, very sorry to you Truex fans out there and to you that are telling me my opinion is going to be horrifically wrong, but I gotta give this scheme an F. I hate to leave this off on a bad note, but those are my rankings so far. This has been part 1 of the best paint schemes of 2022 tier list. Make your own tier list with the link in the description below. But with that, we are done with this episode of ATYL, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. Come back next week for part 2, where we'll rank the rest of the paint schemes and we'll shuffle some things around to give a definitive answer as to what are the best paint schemes of 2022. But in the meantime, make sure to check out our social media pages at _TaylorKitchen_ on Twitter and TikTok for the latest NASCAR news. Also, make sure to check out Above the Yellow Line on Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Also follow TobyChristieCom on all social media platforms and TobyChristie.com to read and hear more from the teams and your favorite drivers. Last but not least, I gotta thank our fantastic partners, Shaq, iGear, and Doordash for supporting us here at Above the Yellow Line and TobyChristie.com. They have some awesome promo codes for you all to enjoy, so make sure you check those out. Links in the description below. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends and family, and guys, thank you so much for supporting us here at Above the Yellow Line and TobyChristie.com, and until next time, I'll see ya.